All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is called Iconoclasm and Color in the Scriptures. This uh, video is inspired by a video I was watching earlier. Elder Apostle Tahar did a video. These Christians don't have a clue or clueless when it comes to the scriptures, something like that. And as I was watching his video, the term iconoclasm came to mind, and color in the scriptures. So I started writing down some of the scriptures, and I finished watching the apostle's video, and then there was a response to his video from Elder Apostle Gabar, and he pretty much said the same thing, that they don't know the scriptures, and I concur with that because it's the truth. They don't know the scriptures. That's why they resort to these childish, petty, nitpicking, slandering tactics that they use. And that's pretty much what the bottom line. And we keep saying it over and over again. It's a waste of time dealing with these guys, but I mean, it is good spiritual target practice, to get sharp, or sharper with the scriptures. But pretty much at the end of the day, it's a waste of time because they're not sincere in their endeavor. See, we're sincere in teaching the words that we're teaching, in the hopes that the elect can receive it and be delivered. They're not sincere. Their whole thing is about keeping white supremacy alive. And it's funny to show you how the Spirit works. When I put this, the Spirit had me put those scriptures together. Apostle Gabar went into one of those scriptures that I had written down in the book of Acts about the Apostle Paul. So what we're going to do is we're going to just get into that term iconoclasm, because that's a very important term to get into, because the world that we live in today, before the Lord woke us up, it was there was a great deception that had taken place, and a great thing, for lack of better words, that Esau did, which wasn't a great thing, which was a wicked thing, but it was greatly wicked, and that thing is, he, took our book, the Bible, and made the world believe that he, that the Most High looks like him, that Yahushua looks like him, that the angels look like him, the Israelites. So for a long period of time, the world was pretty much, in a dark, or under a dark cloud, not knowing what was going on, But then there came a period of time where the Lord started reviving and bringing the bones back, as per Ezekiel 37, to get the proper breath in them and bring them from out of the congregation of the dead, And that's what you see all the way to today. That's the legacy, that we are following, from Elder Abba Bivens, which we believe is Elijah, and John the Baptist coming back in the reincarnation, that brought the hearts of the children back to the Father. Because at one time we were lost, and it says that here in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. And that's, pretty much where we're at with it, that we are indeed the Israelites. The scriptures say so. When you read it with understanding, if you're not a carnal man, if you're not a natural man, if you're a spiritual man, you can see that. Anybody could see that, that is spiritual. But the ones that are not spiritual are not going to see it, and they're going to fight against it. And that's Vocab's job. His job is to keep people blind and keep people in line, especially Jake, concerning white supremacy. So let's get into that word iconoclasm, and then let's build from there. This is in Wikipedia. Iconoclasm. Iconoclasm, from Greek icon, figure, icon, plus klao, to break. So icon breaker, or the defacing of an image, So the word iconoclasm literally means the defacing or the breaking of an image. It says, is the social belief in the importance of the destruction of icons and other images or monuments, most frequently for religious or political reasons. And that's what it was. It was religious and political reasons, because Esau was coming out of that dark veil, that he was under when he was shut up and a seal was set upon him. He was pretty much imprisoned, for lack of better words, for a period of 1,000 years, where he couldn't deceive the world anymore, as he had been doing. Which, Lord's will, we're going to get to that in Revelation 20. It says, most frequently for religious and political reasons, people who engage in or support iconoclasm are called iconoclasts, a term that has come to be figuratively applied to any individual who challenges cherished beliefs or venerated institutions on the grounds that they are erroneous or pernicious. And that's what Esau has done. They put themselves up as being the people. But now the Lord is causing us to take those, that energy that Esau put into them lies, and using us to destructure, their lies that they have perpetrated upon the world. Let's go real quick to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 3. It says, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh, because our walk in this truth is spiritual. It's very spiritual. It's nothing to do with carnality, because the Lord said that a carnal mind is enmity with the Most High. So it says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. So what are the weapons of our warfare? These scriptures. Take on the whole armor of the Lord. So this is our armor. These are our weapons. And this is what we use to defend our faith of this truth, is these scriptures. Vocab and them don't have weapons. All they have is deception. That's why they don't go into the scriptures. And if they do, they're breaking the scriptures down totally wrong. Like the situation, and that was not sincere, that situation that they brought out in 1 Chronicles, the 2nd chapter, about Sheshan bringing in the Egyptian servant, and giving him his daughters, and he was inserted into the lineage of Israel. That's not the case, because when you understand that Sheshan was going off, he should have gave his daughters to somebody of the tribe, another man, a close relative, of the tribe of Judah, to continue with the inheritance into the possession of the Judites, and not given to the Egyptians or any other nation. All right. So that's what our weapons, the weapons of our warfare are, is these scriptures, which the Christians do not know. It says, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. And that's what has happened. That stronghold of Christianity, that lie of white supremacy, has been pulled down. And they don't like the exposure. They feeling that breeze, that the cool of the day, they feeling that breeze, and they're feeling very uncomfortable, because their nakedness is being shown. And they're not too happy with it. It says casting down imaginations, and that's what it is. Because what the teachings that you see of plantation Christianity are nothing more than imaginations. Now let's get that real quick. I want to get imaginations in 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 5. So casting down imaginations, the word imaginations is logismo, is where you get the word logic, or logic from, which is reasonings, thoughts, of the mind. It says a reckoning, computation, a reasoning, such as is hostile to the Christian faith, a judgment, decision, such as conscience passes. So their logic you know, the Lord has us casting it down because their logic is what they use to deceive the world. These are those cunningly devised fables. These are those the sleight of hand and the deception that these devils use. That other gospel, you know, that other Jesus, the other white meat. So the word casting down is katherio, kathario, however the hell you pronounce that. To take down without the notion of violence, see? Because we're not a violent group, although they paint us as a hate group. Without the notion of violence, to detach from the cross, one crucified, with the use of force, to throw down, cast down. And that's what we're doing, to pull down, demolish. So we're demolishing or destructuring plantation Christianity and giving the right sense of what the scriptures say and what they are. It says the subtle reasonings of opponents, likened to a fortress, an example to refute, to destroy. So yeah, they have their stronghold, you know, which is plantation Christianity, which has been, which had won for a long period of time until the truth came up that had been so long time without fruit. And now it's casting down and breaking down that whole untempered mortar of plantation Christianity, which is nothing more than white supremacy. All right, so going back to 2 Corinthians 10 and 5, it says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of the Most High. Because that's what they're doing. They took the Bible and put themselves in there. It says, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Yahushai, because that's what it's all about. And in order for you to know who the Most High and Yahushai is or are, you have to know what they look like. Because the Most High is a spirit, but he is a masculine spirit. And there's descriptions in the scriptures about the Heavenly Father. There's the scriptures in the Bible about Yahushai, about the Israelites, you know, which we're going to get to that. It says, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. Because the scriptures say that all knees shall bow down to Yahushai when he comes back. You know, and the part of bowing down, they're going to be subjected to him, but they're also going to know what he looks like. Which that's something they don't want to deal with. So now, this whole iconoclasm thing is not anything that's new by any stretch of the imagination. Ever since Esau has been in power, that's all they've done. They've done it to other nations, you know. They've done it to Israel. The real Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, not those phonies. But this is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 45, because what was taking place here? When we read this, we're reading into the 3rd chapter. When you read the 1st chapter, after Alexander was set up and conquered the nations, his kingdom was parted among his generals and their children, and wickedness started to grow. And what happened? Out of the line of the Seleucid Empire, you had somebody named Antiochus Epiphanes IV. And he came, and what did he do? He destroyed the temple. He made Jake eat swine's flesh. He put the statue of Zeus in the temple, or Apollo, whichever one it was, same thing, you know, just different name. You know, they desecrated the temple. They made Jake eat, you know, unclean foods. And they were also taking the book of the law and putting their pictures in there. So this is what we're reading about right here, of the destruction of the temple and how Esau and the nations were coming, because under the orders of Antiochus, there was a military coup, I guess you could say, for lack of better words, to come against Jake and Judas Maccabee, because they heard of his fame. So when they heard of this and they saw the armies, they were, you know, speaking about how they were fighting for their nation and for the sanctuary. So 1 Maccabees 3 and 45, it says, now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and this happened during what? Antiochus Epiphanes. And aliens, which are the heathens, kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place, so they were actually living in it there. You know, actually bringing harlots into the sanctuary, having sex with them. You know, parading, you know, them around, doing excuse me, doing all manner of wickedness. Right? Excuse me. Excuse me. It says the heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. So all that merriment ceased. It says, wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspha, which is Mizpeh, over against Jerusalem, for in Maspha was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads. Damn, man. Fuck. Excuse me. Put ashes upon their head. Let me read that again. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Maspha over against Jerusalem, for in Maspha was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes, and had laid open the book of the law, which is what? The Bible, the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. Yeah. So the heathen put themselves up, put their idols up, put themselves up, you know, as the people of that land. So, you know, this is not the first time. The so-called Renaissance wasn't the first time that they attempted to do this. You know, they've been doing this. So this is an example of what they did. Now, in this time, from that point on, they started conquering, but they really, you know, took over, you know, the whole known world, or the whole world actually, you know, during the time of the Renaissance period. You know, and that's when they really sank their teeth, so to speak, and pushed their power on the world, you know, with their lies. And plantation Christianity is one of their main lies. This is Job 9:24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So the Bible tells us that the earth as a whole was given as a possession into the hand of the wicked. When we look around the earth, who's the one that's governing? And even if you have a puppet leader from among the other nations ruling, what guidelines or what policies are they following after? They're following after the so-called white man's policies, the Edomites. And guess what? If they don't follow those policies, they're going to be rooted right out of there, because they're going to have some type of assassination attempt or some kind of coup or something happen to where they'll hunt that individual down till they get rid of them, because it's all about pushing Esau's agenda, the so-called New World Order, which is nothing more. That's another form of white supremacy, you know, with a different label on it. All right, so now it says, he covereth the faces of the judges thereof. So how did he cover up the faces of the judges thereof? By putting up his face as that's why the world now, even if you go on Google or you know, DuckDuckGo, I believe it's called, or any of those other search engines, and you put in Jesus or Jesus Christ, or you put God, all you're going to get is images of so-called white people, because that was the great deception that they pushed upon the planet Earth. You know, was them putting themselves up as the Most High. It says, if not, where and who is he? So if Esau, the so-called white man, didn't do this, where and who is he? Who actually did this? And when did it start taking place? Now let's go from there to the book of Revelation. I'm just going to go straight to the point. We might read further up or from the beginning later on, Lord's will, if the Spirit allows. But I just want to get the point. Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, what 1,000 years? When you read the first verse, Satan, the devil, that old serpent, which is Esau, the so-called white man, they were bound for a period of 1,000 years. during the so-called Byzantine Empire. They weren't able to lie to the people. They weren't able to paint themselves as anything because they had a dark cloud over them, a chain over them that would not allow them to deceive the nations because everybody knew about them. They were run off as thieves, as it says in the book of Job. So they were not able to deceive people. It wasn't until the time of the Renaissance when the power of the Byzantine Empire started waning and Esau started gaining footholds in Europe. And when he started gaining footholds in Europe, what did he do? He went into taking down all of the images, breaking them off the noses, painting over frescoes and mosaics, and different arts, out there, and painting the likeness of themselves upon these drawings and paintings and icons, of the Apostle Paul, the Apostle Peter, the Most High, Yahweh Shai, and the ones. And after they defaced those images with iconoclasm, then they went on a campaign to paint a new form of art, which was Renaissance art, which was painting themselves as the people of the Most High, such as the Sistine Chapel, the ascension of the Lord, and just many other different things that they did during that time period. So that's what they've been doing, and they've been at it so much that they believe their own lie, and the world still believes in their lie. That's why it says in Revelation 13 that when the deadly wound was healed, the whole world wondered after the beast, because at one time we were all under that cloud of deception until the Lord woke us up. And this is what they're mad about, because they want to put Jake back to sleep. You see, because they know as long as Jake is asleep, committing adultery, being homosexuals, being lesbians, eating pork, eating shrimp, lobster, doing all manner of wickedness, worshiping plantation Christianity, they know the Most High ain't going to deal with Jake. He ain't going to be on Jake's side. But the Lord made a way to where, his men got the truth. His men were able to attain, the truth, in the midst of all these lies. Now that's powerful right there, man. The prophet Daniel even said that the Most High is a revealer of secrets. All right, and that's why some people could get it and some people can't. So going back to Revelation chapter 20 and 7, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, because that prison sentence was up. Just like right now, we being under curses, right? It's like a prison sentence. It's like a chain. And then no matter what we do, we can't get out of it until the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai pulls the curses directly off of us. So that's what happened to Esau back right before the Renaissance, during the time of the so-called Holy Roman Empire and the so-called Byzantine Empire. They were under a dark cloud, a dark veil, that they could not deceive the people. So that power of deception was taken away from them. Verse 8, and shall go out. So after he was loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. And that's exactly what they did, because that plantation Christianity is all throughout the planet, all over the place. Everywhere you go, you're going to see a so-called, white individual, white image, and they're going to say that's the Lord, that's the Messiah. And when people pray, that's the image that they see in their head, because it's been so ingrained into the minds of Jake, especially Jake. And that's why Jake to this day will fight against us tooth and nail for us to accept Esau. Because these devils did a number on Jake. All right. Now let's go from there. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, let no man deceive you by any means. Why is that? Because there was a great deception going to come in the future. See, back then, Jake knew that they were Israelites. They knew who the Messiah was. They knew that the Most High and Yahweh Shai were so-called black men. They knew that. There was no way that them Edomites back then could deceive Jake like that, as far as the color thing was concerned. But there was going to come a time when that was going to happen. That's why the Apostle Paul said not to be troubled by letter or by spirit or by anything. It says, For that day shall not come. What day? The day that the Lord comes back, except they come a falling away first. And that falling away first came during 70 AD, when the year that the Romans finally destroyed the temple in Jerusalem, because they had laid siege in it or to it since 66 AD. And 70 AD, about 3.5, 4 years later, that's when they were able to destroy it. You see? And then from that point on, Jake was scattered. It says, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So now we're at the point where this man of sin is being revealed, which is who? The nation of Edom, the Edomites. The scriptures call them the people of the Lord's curse, the people whom the Lord hath indignation forever. Yahushua called one of the Herods a fox, because he was popping off, talking shit. You know, they were talking shit to the Lord, and the Lord said, well, tell that fox I do this and that and the other. And Yahushua knew that they were Edomites, that he called them a fox because they're not Israelites. They're posing as Israelites. Same thing as they're doing today. No different. They're posing as the people of the Lord. They're posing as the Most High. They're posing as Yahushua. They're posing as the angels. They're posing as the prophets. And all these great men in history that we read about, that were so-called men of color, so-called black men, you know, so-called men of color, from a dark brown to a light brown. It says, the son of perdition. Why? Because they were set up to be destroyed. The Lord said he created all things, yea, even the wicked, for the day of wrath. So it says, who opposeth. So what does the word oppose mean? It means to go against. So who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God. So whatever the Most High said not to do, he goes ahead and does it. Because he is the devil. He is Satan. He is the adversary. He is the one set up to do these things. He is the individual that the Most High set up to be the wicked, to do these things, to go against everything that the Most High established. So that when the Most High comes back, he could destroy them, because they are the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. And the Lord created all things, yea, even the wicked, for the day of wrath. So it's all set up. It's all set up. It's a game of chess, beautifully and strategically laid out, where every move is super calculated. Every move is precise. There are no mistakes in the moves. You know, it's an expert strategic chess game, and the pawns that are playing are being controlled by the same power, which is the Most High Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai. So it says, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped. So who do the people of the world venerate as being the Heavenly Father and His Son? So-called white people. You know, that's why you have Moabites that come to this side of the world, so-called Chinese or so-called Japanese, you know, or which are the Ammonites, or so-called whatever nation they are. And what do they want to do? They want to be like Esau. The women want to get with Esau, have their children, because they're thinking in their mind that that's God, and they're nothing more than the faces of men. It says, for that is worship, so that he, these Edomites, as the Most High, sitteth in the temple of the Most High, showing himself that he is the Most High. So who did that? Who's the individual? What nation of people did that? You can't blame that on anybody else but Esau. The scriptures say the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, wherein who is he? No one else has that power to do this but the so-called white man, which are the Edomites of the scriptures. Every evidence points to them. But you still have those either in denial or fighting against it because they're trying to keep Jake asleep. But it's too late, man. Cat's out the bag, dude. Inside joke. It says, remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things. Yeah, it's because the Apostle Paul warned the Thessalonians that this would come. But this was going to come in the future, which we're dealing with that now. From the Renaissance period until this present day. 2020, year of prophecy. And now you know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. Yeah, because the Most High withheld certain things until the right time. Because remember, the Most High is moving the pawns on this chessboard. He's moving all the pieces. It says, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work, because the Roman Empire was already in full bloom. The Greeks had been in full bloom before them. The Greeks had already painted their images and their likenesses of themselves in the book of the law. So it was already in motion. You see? But it wasn't really going to be in full bloom until the Renaissance period, until the great chain was taken away from them and they were loosed out of their prison for a little season. And when the Apostle Paul was writing this letter here, the Apostle John had not written the book of Revelation yet. So see how it goes, they link together. It says, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. So the Most High allowed this to happen because there was a period of time that the Lord was going to take him out of the way. And we're in that period of time now. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. That was appointed his bounds that he could not pass. You know, that's why the scriptures say, wake not my love till he please. Because the Most High got the movie. He's the one directing it. He produced it and directing it. And when the time is right, all the chips are going to fall in place. It says, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. And that's why you see the prophets out here now teaching and exposing these devils, bringing out the dirt that they've done and all the cover-ups and the iconoclasm and all of that. It says, with the spirit of his mouth, which are who? His prophets. It says, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Because eventually the missiles and the lasers from the chariots are going to decimate this devil and take him out of power, take him out of position. That's why Yahushua said, I will not meet thee as a man. It says, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. And that's what they've done through deception. This technology that they have and everything that they have is all used for deception. It says, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness and them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And that's why 2/3 of Israel here in America are not going to receive this, because they're destined to be destroyed. And for this cause the Most High shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. And that's what they believe in plantation Christianity. That's what they believe in the so-called white God and the so-called white Messiah, so-called white angels. You know that the Israelites are white. This, that, and the third. You know that all nations can be saved if they accept Jesus. Yeah, you're talking about the other white meat, the other Jesus. You ain't talking about the Yahushua of the scriptures, because Yahushua of the scriptures said, don't go into any other nations. You know, and to the cities of the Gentiles, don't go to the Gentiles, and to any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So his message was clear. It was concise. There was no leaven in it. There was no deviation. There were no compromises to it. But these devils, what they did was deceived everybody once they got in power to do it. And that happened during the time of the Renaissance period. Now, let's get into some of these color scriptures. Let's go into the book of Exodus, chapter 4, dealing with Moses. And Moses, what happened with Moses? Did not he pass for an Egyptian? So if Moses passed for an Egyptian, and we're going to read about Moses, what color he was, then what color were the Egyptians? Exodus chapter 4, verse 6. It says, and the Lord said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thy bosom. Yeah, because Moses, the Most High told him he was going to send him to deliver the children of Israel. And he was like, how are you going to do that? And he asked for the Lord's name, and he was questioning the Lord. And he wasn't an eloquent man, and he was slow of speech in the Hebrew, but he had mighty works and deeds in the Egyptian language, because that's predominantly the language he spoke. He didn't hardly use the Hebrew language. So it was broken when he spoke it. So the Lord was showing him different signs, on how he was going to raise him up and make him a god to Pharaoh to deliver the nation of Israel. So it says, and the Lord said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thy bosom, And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was what? Leprous as snow. So if his hand became white, right? What would be the miracle if the man was already white and his hand turned white? What would be the miracle in that? There would be no miracle. But if his hand was brown, dark brown, and it turned into a so-called white man's hand, and the rest of his body was still brown, that's a miracle right there. How the hell did that happen? So the Most High pretty much put leprosy on that part of his hand that he put into his bosom, because the Most High was, showing him the power of the Most High. But what this is showing is that Moses was a man of color, and it says that Moses passed for the Pharaoh's for the Pharaoh's daughter's son. So he passed for the Pharaoh's grandson. So if he passed for the Pharaoh's grandson, and the Pharaoh didn't know he was a Hebrew baby, and the Egyptians were so-called black, what color was Moses? Because it says that when we read the about Ham, the father of all the dark races, not the Negroes. And it goes on to say, but the Egyptians, the Canaanites, the Libyans, so it goes on to list all these different Hamitic tribes. But it said not the Negroes, because the so-called Africans, the Hamites, they were men of color, from a dark brown to a light brown, depending on what region they were in. Not because of the region, but depending on if they mixed themselves, or not every Egyptian and not every Israelite, not every one of the different tribes or other nations that are dark. Not everyone came out super charcoal dark. You had different colors. You had a range of colors. You had light skin, you had dark skin, you had brown skin. There was a variety of color. But you would label it today as so-called black. Why? Because that's the label that they put on it, which there's no such thing as a so-called black person. So then it goes on to say, and he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. So what was his other flesh? Brown. Brown. All right. Now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Numbers. So Moses was a so-called brown-skinned man, dark-skinned, brown, a so-called black man. This is Numbers 12 and 10. I started at 9. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. It was kindled against Aaron and Miriam, but predominantly Miriam. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became what? Leprous, white as snow. So she was a brown-skinned woman that was cursed with leprosy, and the Most High turned her into a so-called white woman. Now let's see if Aaron, right, and them said, "Oh, what a delightsome! You look, Miriam. That color suits you, man. You look beautiful. You look gorgeous, man. Can we get some of that?" What did Aaron do? What did Aaron and the rest of the people that were with him do when this whole situation happened? When the Most High turned Miriam, a brown-skinned woman, into a so-called white woman. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us. So that was a sin to look like that. And we got an example right now. It was a sin to look like that. So Aaron didn't say, "Oh, Lord, she looks so delightsome. Can you give her blonde hair? How about giving us some of that?" No. He said, "Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not this sin upon us." Don't turn us into that. Don't make us look like that, because that's a curse to look like that. That's what the Lord calls them, the people of his curse, to judgment. And when you go into Leviticus 13, it speaks about leprosy, and it speaks about a yellow thin hair. And when you look at Esau, the blonde hair is very, very thin. There's no body to it. That's why they got to put all kind of shit in their hair, to make it fluff up a little bit. That's why the brothers call it doggy stringy hair. It says, lay not this sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead. of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. See? So it was a curse to look like that. So how in the fuck can the Most High and his son Yahweh Shai look like that? Like that picture that they pushed out there. Now when you bring out color and the fact that the Most High and Yahweh Shai are so-called black men, they got a problem with that. But they never question the so-called white image. They never question that. No one has ever said, well, you know, you guys, well, I've noticed in Christianity, they always got a picture of a white God. Can you prove that out of the Bible that he looked like that? No, they ain't going to say that. They're not going to talk about that. Hypocrisy at its best, at its finest. But as soon as you bring out the fact that the Most High and his son are so-called black men, there's a problem with that. How dare you? Because that's how much disdain they have for mainly for Judah and the other tribes too, because it trickles down to the rest of the tribes, Issachar and all of them. But mainly Judah. Judah is the main target that they have a problem with. The darker you are, the worse you have it here in America. So it says, and Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, heal her now, O Most High, I beseech you. So Moses asked the Most High to heal her because she was sick, looking like that. So how in the hell could the Most High and Yahweh Shai look like that? How in the hell can the Israelites look like that when this Israelite woman got turned looking like that, and Aaron and Moses both got nervous and asked the Most High to heal her because she was sick. Now let's go to Songs of Solomon, because they like to go to scriptures like this to say, well, look, over here it says that they're white. Songs of Solomon 5 and 10. It says, my beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. Now what does that mean? Because there's no such thing as black people, there's no such thing as white people. So what does that mean? White represents purity. Ruddy represents youthful beauty. My beloved is pure and beautiful. That's what that should read. Pure and beautiful. It says, the chiefest among 10,000. His head is as the most fine gold, because King Solomon had, gold interwoven into his head. It says his locks are what? Bushy and black as a raven. So they are bushy. Who has bushy hair? Esau can only have bushy hair when either they mix with Jake or Ham or one of the other nations, or when they put all kind of chemicals and stuff in their hair to make their hair, fluff up, because their hair is dead. Let me see, there's a precept there on verse 11, and it says, or curled, but bushy. Let's look that word up, bushy. Songs of Solomon 5 and 11. Songs of Solomon 5 and 11, baby. And that's what, see, if you try to have a dialogue like this with vocab in them, you know what? You're never going to get a chance to read the scriptures. You're always going to get stuck on one point. They're not going to let you get to the actual scripture, to the actual point of the scripture. They're not going to let you get there. They're going to deviate, they're going to circumlocute, they're going to come with all different kind of bullshit. They're going to go around the planet, but you're never going to get that out. That's why it's a waste of time dealing with them. That's why now that they finally put up the videos and thinking that they did something, now the Spirit God is being able to do the sit downs and go through and break things down that they would not allow us to break down when we were out there. So this is the word bushy. The Hebrew word is thalathal, wavy. Esau doesn't have wavy hair. Branchy, used of a woman's hair figuratively, meaning uncertain. Yeah, right, meaning uncertain. Bold, pendulous, bushy. And when you look, I'm pretty sure if you look up the word bushy, it's not going to say the hair of so-called white people. Let's see, let me look up that term bushy, see what it says. Go to this offline dictionary. Bushy. Bushy. Used of hair thick and poorly groomed, bushy locks, a shaggy beard, resembling a bush and being thickly branched and spreading. That sounds like an afro to me. Let me look up the word afro, see what it says. Okay, afro. A rounded, thickly curled hairdo. And what do we read about bushy? Resembling a bush and being thickly branched and spreading. Now, Absalom used to grow long hair, right? Big, he had a lot of hair on his head. Every year he would pull it. I think the weight of it was 6 pounds or something like that when you break it down. So what happened? He was trying to get away from Joab. No, he was trying to get away from Israel, and he went up under a thick grove. And what happened? That fro got caught up in a tree. So he was hanging, dangling from off his horse in a tree. And the young men told Joab, and he went over there to him and threw 3 darts through his heart and killed him. That wasn't no doggy stringy hair. That was an afro that he had. He was riding, and he got stuck in that oak. That bush, or that bushy hair, got stuck in that bush, and that's how Joab was able to kill him. You see, man, these Christians are through, man. They're through. They finished. Let's see what else we got. Oh, let's read on. Songs of Solomon 5 and 11. My beloved is, his head is as white as the most fine gold, and his locks are bushy and black as a raven. Now let's go from there to Daniel chapter 7 verse 9. This is dealing with the Most High himself. Excuse me. Daniel 7 and 9. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. Who is this? The Most High. He's the Ancient of Days, whose garment was white as snow. So he had a garment on, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. So he had woolly hair, beautiful woolly hair. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Let me look up that word wool just in the common dictionary, see what it says. I don't know if it's going to say anything, but let's see what it says. Wool. Wool. A fabric made from the hair of sheep. And when you look at the hair of sheep, that doesn't look like so-called white people's hair. Fiber sheared by animals such as sheep and twisted into yarn for weaving. Outer coat of especially sheep and yaks. Yeah, when you look at sheep hair, it does not resemble Esau's hair. It resembles Jake's hair. Let me see what it says in the... Excuse me, man. Goddamn allergies, man. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 9. Wool. Imar. Just says wool. It doesn't really go into much. But we know that so-called black people have woolly hair, kinky hair, bushy hair. Now let's go from there to Revelation 1. These plantation Christians are finished, man. That whole plantation Christianity, that spell that they had, that witchcraft that they had on the world, is not working as it used to. Revelation 1:13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man. This is dealing with Yahushua. Clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girded about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool. When you look this up in other translations, it says the hair of his head, just like it said in the book of Daniel 7 and 9. That's the proper reading. It's not talking about his head. It's talking about the hairs on his head. It says his head and his hairs, or the hairs on his head, were white like wool, because they were woolly, afro, and they were white. Bushy beard, bushy afro, bushy mustache. You know, his eyebrows, eyelashes were all white. The hair on his head was white like wool. It was white and it was woolly. Just as we read, the Most High's hair was like the pure wool. It says, as white as snow, pure white. And his eyes were as a flame of fire. It says, and his feet like unto fine brass. And when you look up fine brass, when you go to the Greek, the word there is bronze. You know, and bronze or brass is a derivative of brown. It says, and then you take this brass or this bronze as if they burned in a furnace, and you put it in a furnace, it's gonna come out much darker than when you put it in there. You know, so his skin color, his skin tone was very dark, and had a splendid glow to it. You know, like you see, they used to call Jake shines down south because the oil on Jake's face will make their face to be shiny. You know, and his voice as the sounds of many waters. Let's go from there to Songs of Solomon, another Judite, son of King David. Songs of Solomon 1 and 5. I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem. So King Solomon is saying that he's black. Oh, that was what did they say? That was a Shunammite woman that wrote this. Well, we read the first verse. It says the Song of Songs, which is Solomon. So this is Solomon's writing this. This ain't no woman writing about Solomon. The Proverbs and the wisdom of Solomon. These are things. Ecclesiastes, that King Solomon was writing from the wisdom that he had. So here in verse 5, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Meaning the rest of King Solomon's family members were brown like he is, so-called black. Now let's look up that word black. And they can't get around it, but they always try to. Well, man, shut the hell up. Because your lies ain't working now. All right, the word black. From the Hebrew word shakawar or shakar, black. Properly dusky, but also absolutely jetty, black. So he's saying he's a so-called black man. All right. As the tents of Kedar. Let's look up the word Kedar now. Qadar. Dark. A son of Ishmael, the descendants of Kedar, dusky of the skin or the tent. Yeah, they got nasty with this one. They didn't put the dark skin. Yeah, Salaki about that, brothers. I had to that call. That was a important call I had to take. Salaki for that. All right, so let's go from there to the book of. Well, let's read Songs of Solomon again. Oh, we were going to get the word Kedar. Yeah, it didn't really bring out too much. When you go to the Blue Letter Bible, it actually brings out, dark skin or I forget exactly how it's worded. If a brother has a chance, if they could put it up on a comment board. If I see it, I'll read it off the comment board. But going back to Songs of Solomon 1 and 5, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. And if Jake gets into the sun, they're gonna get darker. You're gonna get dark. You can have a shirt on, short sleeve shirt, and you can have the sun beating down on your skin. And if you pull that up by the end of the day, you're gonna see that the bottom of your arm is gonna be darker than the top. All right. So look not upon me because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Because this is a book of like poetry to wisdom, but it's also given the description of King Solomon. That's why he used the term black and he used the term Kedar. Now Kedar is he was a very dark-skinned son of Ishmael. All right, and that's the word that's there for the Jews being black. It's the word Kedar or Qadar. All right, which means dark skin. All right, now let's go from there to Job. We got a couple more precepts and then we could close out. Job chapter 30 and verse 30. It says, my skin is black upon me and my bones are burnt with heat. So Job is saying that he's a so-called black man. Now I don't know if it's going to use the same word shakar as was used in Songs of Solomon. But let's see. Black. Shakar, yep. It says to be black of skin. Check that out. Oh, here we go. The brother Gabar Adama. Strong's Qadar, to be dark. Originally word Qadar, part of speech, verb, definition, to be dark. Yeah, that's a little better. And I think there's a part when you go to the down to the bottom, the Jacinius lexicon, I believe it says to have dark skin or something like that. You know, but hey, there you go. There you have it. The water, brother. All right, so let's go from there to I'm gonna have to Amos 9 and 7. Amos chapter 9 verse 7. Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? And what color are the Ethiopians? They're different shades of brown, from a dark brown to a light brown. So the Lord is comparing Jake to the Ethiopians as far as color is concerned. And when you type in Ethiopians, you're going to see some that are very dark. You're going to see some that are medium brown. You're going to see some that look like some of the so-called Latin tribes, you know, because they range from a dark brown to a light brown. So the Lord is comparing the nation of Israel to them as far as color is concerned, because it's not referring to them as a people, is referring to color. You know, the similarities in color, because they're heathens. You know, that's what the Lord said with the Egyptians. He said He made a difference between Israel and the Egyptians. Now let's go from there to Acts 13. Because we're almost done. Acts 13 and 1. And you know, at this point it's overkill, but hey, let's just go to it. Acts 13 and 1 says, Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger. Now what does the word Niger mean? Let's go to Acts. Book of Acts 13 and 1. The word Niger, black. So this man was called so-called black man. You know, because all of the disciples were so-called black men. They were different shades of brown. You know, Yahushua, the disciples, the Apostle Paul, who was from the tribe of Benjamin, Timothy, his father, his mother, grandmother, all of them men that were back there, Barnabas, they were all so-called black men. You know, brown-skinned men, so you could understand, from a dark brown to a light brown. All right, now let's go from there to Acts chapter 2, Matthew chapter 2, because remember, we read that Moses, well, we didn't read it, we mentioned it, that Moses passed for the Pharaoh's grandson. So if he passed for the Pharaoh's grandson, that means he had to look like those brown-skinned Egyptians back then. Matthew 2 and 13, and when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, see, and be thou there until I bring thee word from Herod, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. So why did they flee down to Egypt? To mingle in with the other dark nations down there. And you had a big community of Israelites down there. They call them Alexandrian Jews. You know, and they were down there in the midst of these other Egyptians. Now, as Apostle Gabar mentioned, yeah, you had the top, or the heads of the Egyptians at that time were the Ptolemies, and they were so-called white people. But the majority of the other people that were conquered by the so-called Greeks and Edomites were people of color. And Jake went down there to mingle among those people of color. in Egypt. Now, the last scripture I have, which was the one he had read, and I know that to show you how the Spirit works. Before I actually watched his video, the Spirit told me to write that one down. And then when I went and watched his video, lo and behold, he used the same scripture to show you how the Spirit works. Acts 21:37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek? So in other words, he's saying, how are you speaking Greek? He said, Art thou not that what? That Egyptian which before these days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murdered. So he mistaken him for an Egyptian. And what color are the Egyptians? Brown-skinned people. It says, but Paul said, I am a man which am a what? A Jew. Did not we read in Amos 9:7 that the Lord, are you not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? So but Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. So pretty much Paul was mistaken for an Egyptian. So the Israelites are people of color, you know, and this whole iconoclasm thing was a deception that was used by the devil to further, well, really to deceive the world, because that was his job. That was what they were supposed to do. They were set up to do this. That deception took place because the Most High wanted this deception to take place. And then now he's plucking out the ones of Israel that are the elect to receive this message, to be sealed, and so that they can be delivered. All right, so this has been iconoclasm and color in the scriptures. So with that, I pray that your brothers have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.